Boys and girls, this is Timo with EAV Rudio. I have the pleasure of sitting with Agent J of the Slackers, getting ready to see them tonight. So, Agent J, I actually interviewed you guys. Last time was April 4th, 2019, actually, here at Masquerade, right before the world shut down.
Yeah, that was like a year almost before the world shut down. Yeah, so I guess it was right before.
It was right before it, in the before times. One question I had for you guys kept playing. You're doing internet stuff. You were one of the few bands that did it really well, that kept playing and kept going. I'm curious, both personally and professionally, how that changed and what you were doing and going through all this stuff where you kept working and playing.
At first it was weird because it was like we normally take the winter and the summer off the road more or less these last few years. And so when things started to shut down, it was maybe not quite 3 weeks, it was a little after halfway through March. So we were supposed to go on the road like the end of March. So we were like, okay, maybe things will shut down for a couple days and then we'll be on the road. And then it was like, okay, so we're postponing the first week of gigs. Then it became like the first month. And, at first it was like, oh, that's cool. I guess I have some more time off. And then it was suddenly like, oh shit, man, are we going to pay our bills? Like, what are we going to do? But I got to say, pretty quickly, Dave swung into action really once he realized that gigs would get canceled or postponed, he went to like plan B immediately and was like, like all the stuff, all the merch we had in the storage space that we normally only sell on the road, or like for a minute when Interpunk was a thing, he suddenly inventoried all of that, got it all on the website so we could sell merch, online because we weren't going to be at gigs. And we got gear to do like live streams. We found these cheap security cameras instead of expensive GoPros. And our sound guy Mark Critelli wired up his whole house in New Jersey, so we'd be in different rooms, and he'd have this master feed.
I saw one where you guys had all the barriers in between you guys.
Yeah. The first 6 months, at least a year, it was like people were in other rooms. Some guys during the summer were out on like the porch because they didn't want to be in the same room. People were downstairs, upstairs, to kind of isolate us, to isolate horns so we didn't get bleed if we were, actually when we started recording records there later. So we kind of, Dave is one of those guys that's just very proactive, and he's very like, he's always at like 30 plus years on the road, 35 years he's been on the road. So it's like, any disaster, he like just jumps to plan B. It's like hope for the best but prepare for the worst. So we just stayed busy. We did those live streams, like a couple of them, or maybe once a month for a minute, every other month. But then every week he had us like, somebody would have to do a live stream from their house, like individually. Like at first I would do a DJ set or something before they kind of shut that down because of copyright stuff.
At one point, I think Glenn cooked.
Marcus cooked a little too, and just kind of talk about bass. Ara would give drum lessons. Vic and Dave would play and do live sets. I would go through the multi-track sessions of old records and kind of talk about them with people. And we'd put up our little donation PayPal thing. And that actually was like kind of like a weekly gig. And it really helped out, and it kept us busy, mentally, where it's like you need to, like any group of people, it's like if you don't stay busy, you lose your purpose. And, so it kept us together as a band, even though we couldn't get together more than once every, couple of months or something.
Well, I'm glad. And like I said, just from seeing a lot of different musical acts respond differently to it, you guys seemed pretty on the ball where you just kept going.
Yeah, I think it's kind of that, there is that weird, like DIY thing, but it's like, smaller bands that maybe don't tour that much, they kind of were just like, well, I guess we're off the road for a minute. And bigger bands that have a big production routine, for instance, like the Interrupters, I don't know how busy they stayed, but they have, they have a tour bus, they have a lot of gear, they have like wireless mics, they have, all this kind of stage show stuff, where that's kind of much harder to replicate for a DIY setup. Whereas the Slackers is a very simple thing. And like in the US and most of the world, like we drive ourselves on tour. We have like just a sound guy and our tour manager who does merch, and our sound guy kind of crews and techs. So it's a very small unit. So we're kind of used to doing everything ourselves. And this is our job, so we had to keep working. It's not like, okay, we're just not going to tour this year, and we'll keep doing our day jobs. Or
I've talked to different bands that have the day jobs, and this, that, and the other, and you guys don't. This is it.
Job. So we were just like, all right, man, we got to make it work. There's people out there with money and nothing to do, and they're sitting in front of their computer screens. We just got to get on those screens and get them to give us
because we all wanted to still spend our money.
Yeah, exactly, man. So that was the name of the game.
How was it coming out from that when things started opening up again a little bit and you could actually go out and tour? Was it a big difference coming back into it? Or
I'm trying to think what we did. Maybe we even did, because we even started doing live shows in 2020, but we would do these outdoor like private parties for like maybe 30 people. It had to be spread out and outdoors. So
your secret shows.
So we even by the summer of 2020, I remember we were already doing live gigs again. So we had done a few, and I forget by maybe early 2021, I think in the spring we did a little bit of gigs. We did a few gigs, but fall of 2021, we actually did our first real like tour. We really stayed on the clubs and kept postponing gigs and kept locking in our dates. So we were able to like hit the ground running as soon as clubs opened up again. And I remember we got in, I forget what it is, we had a really we had all these outdoor shows and indoor shows and a couple of gigs, and we had like 15 of them. That might have been spring of 2021 or fall, I forget. But we thought at least some of them were going to get rained out or something, and they all came off, and it worked really good. 2021 was great. The very end, I believe, of 2021, our second to last show, it was right during the big Omicron spike. And even finishing the tour, like coming back to New York, the venue, Irving Plaza, wouldn't even let us in the venue. Everyone on the tour, so it was like us and Agrolites, and I forget who else was doing the tour with us. We all had to get COVID tests before we could even go in the building to load in. But of course, the audience wasn't COVID tested, so somewhere in there, it's very likely somebody's friend or guest or just somebody we came in contact with gave a couple guys in the band COVID. So like,
and then it just spread through wildfire.
Well, luckily it was the second to last show, so we had one more show the next day. We're fine, no problem. And then that week, a couple of the guys were like, "Hey, I got COVID. Everybody tested, and I had just gotten vaccinated, or I just got my booster, so I couldn't even check for it." And as it turned out, everyone, nobody was deathly ill. People just felt like shit for a week or two. And luckily we were off the road and we did all the gigs. But it was kind of a warning to like...
fortuitous timing.
Yeah, which again, then in 2022, we were mid-tour. Like, oh no, we were a week in and Dave got it in Montreal. And so he couldn't re-enter the country. So we had to play without Dave for a minute. Then... a couple days later, a week later, me and Glenn got it, probably in Dallas. So we were off the road for like a week. Glenn was he missed the whole rest of the tour. I rejoined the band, and my sub, Kristen Forbes, filled in.
I love Kristen.
She's great. Yeah. So we literally had, Dave counted, that spring of 2022 tour, we had like 13 shows. It was like a Southwest, a Canada and Southwest run. Very weird. We had 13 shows. We had 8 different lineups of the band in those 13 shows. So
I would have loved to have been somebody like following you on tour. Just, this is their third lineup.
It was good. Like we missed Glenn. He couldn't come back. But when I rejoined the band, Kristen was still in the band. So it was a very rare 2-guitar version.
Oh, nice.
So I could play all the kind of picking and lead stuff, and Kristen was playing the chords and singing backup. So it was like 2-guitar, 3-vocal version. I remember it being one of the band's like best shows in like forever.
I have to see
so
if I
much
can
fun.
Find some recordings of that somewhere.
If you find it, it was May of 2022 at the Crescent in Phoenix, and it was absolutely a great show.
Well, talking about great shows, you guys again, you tour all the time. I've seen you quite a bit. For some reason, on this tour, I have seen more just posts online from people I know from over the country talking about how this got to see the Slackers on this tour because this one's better than what we've seen before, and they're good before, but oh my God, this one just killed me. I'm curious if there's anything different about this tour that you're doing.
Nothing really, I would say. I mean, it's just different tunes. I mean, last night was the first night with the Interrupters, so we're only playing a 40-minute set, so it's a nice, tight little set. But we just did some gigs in like Connecticut and a private party in Rhode Island, and we were kind of gearing up for the 15th anniversary, which we have on the merch table, the 15th anniversary of the Self-Medication record. So maybe we just kind of relearned some tunes and kind of are just playing them a little differently, having like just coming out of, I guess we kind of toured a lot of the summer, so we had a little bit of a break. I don't know, maybe just wherever everyone's heads are at. Like Ara's back, Jimmy Boom was subbing for him most of the summer, so Ara's back in the band. He's always been in the band, he just was subbing out. So maybe that is adding like a that kind of old time kind of.
I think some of it was also the songs because they were talking about some of the different.
Yeah, like we've been playing Stars. We kind of broke out and some other ones, and I don't know, just that. Hopefully that gusto is there. So we were feeling it too, especially the Connecticut, the one in Hamden, Connecticut, felt really good. But yeah, I don't know. I just think maybe we just kind of do away with extraneous shit, and the band maybe focuses a little more, or just we're better. Even 30 years in, we're getting better at doing the Slackers thing we do of like the very loose tightness or tight looseness. It's just a thing.
Nice. So, is there anything coming up that you guys are working on? Anything new?
Yeah. Back in February, we were going to go to Brazil, and so everyone happened to be in town because a lot of guys live scattered all over the country. So everyone happened to be back in New York, and we went to Mark Ratelli's house to rehearse, and just the fact we were all in town, even though that Brazil tour ended up getting postponed till August, we were all in town, so we wanted to get together and play, and Vic had tunes, so we got together and recorded, I don't know, maybe half a dozen tunes or so. So those are sitting there, and Vic's been working on them. So there is, at least, I don't know if we're going to do singles, or if that's going to be the nucleus of the next record. So there is new Slackers work on tape,
Already had started, still in progress.
Yeah.
So we will all be looking forward to that. Okay, now I have a personal question for you, Agent J. You may not remember this. About 2 supernovas ago, not this last one, the first one, after we all came back. And after the whole thing, I was sitting there with Greg Lee, and you came up and started chatting. And you guys apparently have hilarious conversations all the time, you and Greg.
Well, I wish it was all the time. Like, it's once every 10 years I get to talk to
when you see him. But you were talking, I can't remember what it was about, but it was something like unicorn meat or horse meat or something like that. And I mean, I lost it. And I yelled at you, I'm like, I've interviewed you before, and how come none of this stuff ever comes up?
I don't know, it just takes the combination. And like, Greg is one of those like magical people where he's, super charismatic and smooth and talented, and yet he's also like, you could tell when you talk to him, he's like, oh, you're a weirdo too, man. I feel you, man. Me and you could hang out, and it's like, unfortunately, me and him actually only ever like shoot the shit for like 5 minutes, like not even every 5 years. Like I wish it was every 5 years, but yeah, Greg's great.
I'm glad you had that, because you had a pretty 5, 10, 15-minute chat with him.
See, that's it. We met our quota for like the next decade. That's it.
I did have to ask you about that. Next, are you excited for the boat? Flogging Molly Cruise.
Yeah, that boat. Yes. Yeah. Well, because we do like this booze cruise in New York every year, and we do one in Boston. Yes. I'm also a little like, kind of just, I've traveled so much this year already that I'm like, some of it unplanned. That I'm just kind of like taking each day, like, where are we today? Like, even, I don't know, where it's just like, okay, this tour goes into the next one, and I'm just kind of like looking at the map, like, okay, I remembered my passport. I know we're leaving the country again. But just like, oh, that's right, we're doing this whole fucking run through the Southeast. Oh, and then we get on this boat and go down through the Caribbean and go to like Mexico, like Yucatan and Belize, and then come back, and then looking at it, and then it's like, oh, we're home for like 2 days, literally. Then we go to Chicago, then we're home, then we go to the Northwest. I'm looking at my tour schedule, and I'm just like, I'm getting tired looking at it. You know, man. I love playing the shows. I love playing the music. I love hanging out with the people and the scene. But I'm kind of like burnt on the actual traveling aspect of it. Mm-hmm. At least the boat, the cruise ship will be like a giant tour bus where it's like you won't have to like drive to the venue every day and like drive back to the hotel or whatever. It's just like play your gig,
then stay on the boat,
stagger to your room wherever that is, and you're good for the next whatever 31 hours until you have to play again.
Well, I'll see you on the boat.
Yeah,
I'm going to be on that one definitely. One last question that I love to ask everybody. So it's sometimes good when the whole band's, because you guys can chat about it and whatnot, but individually it works as well. Do you have any, you've been doing this for so long, do you have any just crazy band story, fan story from being on the road? Like you're just like, oh my God, this one always just makes me laugh.
I'm sure I'm like drawing a blank. I'm just trying to think of, there's a couple of good ones. I mean, there's a bunch of like great ones that we would find hysterical. One of my favorite ones, right off the bat, I mean, one of my favorite ones is there's this gig in Leeds in UK where there's like a door from the backstage to the like hallway that leads to the venue, except during the show hours they kind of lock the door so that like if people can't, because the backstage also has another door to the back parking lot, so they don't want people coming in from the parking lot and like cutting through the dressing room to get into the venue for free. Mm-hmm. So we would do this thing where it's like we come out on stage, like me and Marcus and Ara, we come out, we start the show, we start playing whatever song starts the show. Then Dave comes out and Glenn comes out and Vic comes out, you know, after just like 8 bars or something, like barely 30 seconds. And, you know, that's how the show starts. We kind of like the rhythm section starts, people come out. So we go on stage, me and Ara and Marcus, and we start playing the first song, and we're kind of playing a few chords, and like nothing's happening. After like 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes going by, it's like getting really uncomfortable. We're just like, what? And then from like the back of the venue, we see like a very angry looking Dave who's soaking wet, like pushing his way through the crowd to get to the stage. Because apparently when we had gone on stage, somebody closed the door and locked them in the backstage. So they had to go all the way around the club in the rain and like go through the front door and like push their way through the crowd to get to the gig. And that definitely was like, we almost dropped laughing. It was hysterical.
Something tells me if everybody was here, that is not the funniest story.
Right. That's the one that like, yeah, I'm sure they would. That's one for me that comes to mind. There's a million others. And I think at the end of the night, he ended up doing it again, because Dave will go on stage to introduce the band for the encore, and then he locked the band in the backstage again. But he remembered, so he ran backstage, and he wasn't playing, so he like said a few sentences, then was like, and like ran back and let us out of the backstage again.
Nice. Oh, that's beautiful.
But yeah, there's a million others that I'm like drawing a blank on.
And that generally happens when I ask for you. Eventually, one may come up, one may not, but I appreciate the one you gave me, and you know what? Next time I see you again, because I'm sure I will, and if I talk to you again,
if I think
try
of
and
something
have
else,
one loaded. Because I love getting these stories from
right.
You don't hear them a lot, because it's all internal. So that's really all I've got. Is there? Last question I always ask: is there anything I missed that you want to tell everybody about that's coming up, or anything you got going on?
There is. I'm really terrible at promotion. I think we just repressed Self-Medication, which we put out in 2008, I believe. So you could find that. And there's other little vinyl.
It came up on Bandcamp as well. If you
okay. You could find that. Yeah, I think whatever, the slackers.com or whatever, it comes up. And we have a 12-inch, I think it's a 12-inch single of one of the newer tunes that didn't make the last record, called I Want to Kill You. And I forget what's on the B-side. But Vic just finished that. So that came out, I don't know, like a month or two ago. And that's kind of it. I guess that's it. Yeah. I
appreciate it, Agent J. Boys and girls, you've been listening to me talk with Agent J from the Slackers. I'm glad that you listened. Hope you gleaned something great from it. This is Timo from EAV Rooter telling you to take it light and keep it easy. Have a good one.